All right, then I think we're good to go. So we will call the Monday, May 6th, 2024 meeting of the Norfolk School Building Committee to order. I am going to preside as the vice chair because Grace is absent for good reason. So do we usually do a roll call? We do. Okay, let's start with a roll call. Maybe over at that end of the table.
Matt Mallers, Director of Facilities.
There you go.
Mike Lucarello, volunteer member of the committee.
Victoria Saldana, Assistant Superintendent.
Jason Whalen, volunteer.
Ingrid Laddy, Superintendent.
Medora Champagne, volunteer / vice chair.
Mike Ryan, volunteer.
Sorry, Ingrid, that's all right.
And Justin Tebow with AI3.
Okay, all right, so quick and painless. Moving on to item number 1 on our agenda, we need to review the minutes of April 10th, 2024. I am assuming that maybe everyone had a chance to go through the minutes prior to the meeting, so we'll be looking for a motion to approve the minutes of April 10th, 2024.
Seconded.
Someone has, did you move?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Seconded.
There we go. Okay. Any further discussion or corrections or updates to the minutes? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay. And now, excitement. Number 2 on the agenda, design update from AI3.
Thank you. So, handful of items I wanted to talk through tonight. Just reconfirm the modular scope review, refresh everybody, and then really look at the options overview. We're going to actually start the options overview by refreshing everybody on what the 2023 study was. The scope of it, what the outcomes were, what that project was, just so everybody has a little bit of a baseline to compare modular options 1, 2, and 3. Then we'll go over those 3 modular options. And you should have seen in your packet, there's floor plans now for each of them. We'll walk through those briefly, as well as schematic site plans, get questions, comments, feedback. The intent is that we would take any of the comments and feedback for any of the options, make modifications, and ultimately those would be updated and then sent out for estimating. So we have it, and we'll go over schedule at the end as far as what the next steps are and timing of everything, but that's really the intent of today's conversation. So just a quick update for refresher. In 2023, feasibility study identified a total number of classrooms at FK as 33. So that's 27 existing, 6 new. It identified 7 pre-K classrooms new as part of the expansion project, and it equaled approximately just over 36,000 square feet. Based upon our last meeting, it was decided to utilize that same information for the modular construction project. So 33 total classrooms, 6 new, 27 existing, 7 pre-K classrooms, and try to get as close to 36,000, however it worked out, based upon the modular unit. We're stuck within that building block, so it's going to be somewhere in that range. It's not going to hit that number exactly, and you'll see what that ultimately ended up working out to be. Again, the 4 options for discussion, all the way on the left is the original, or the 2023 study, and then the 3 modular options. Again, the landing slide, and we're going to break down each of these as previous. So, the study, the brick and mortar option, the previous feasibility study, looking at in-depth conversation for that. Refresher, direct interior connection. So this is an actual stick-built building connected physically to the wings right over there, basically bridging the gap, making the courtyard enclosed. Because it is a permanent build from foundations, everything all the way up through, and the type of construction, it can be physically attached to this existing building. It would require redirection of the service road and the utilities underneath that road. It's landing right on top of where that road is, and that was all captured in the study that was completed last year. And then, because it is within that service road and utility, minimal tree removal is required because it's already cleared back there because of the road and the utilities. So starting the conversation in fall of 2022, we piggybacked on top of the previous work that had been done back in 2019, as well as previously for the visioning and the programming to really define what this project should be, needs to be. So there were 4 specific visioning and information gathering sessions. It was to reconfirm a lot of the work that was previously done. So the 4 sessions were broken out into early childhood, so your pre-K component, art, technology, and STEAM integration, general education and teacher planning, and then special education. We had in-depth conversations with the faculty and staff for each of these groups to talk about what was previously done, to see if it still fits the needs of the district, to see if it fits the vision of the future. What was done in 2019 was a high-level overview. It wasn't a thorough, in-depth, these conversations were a couple hours each, tons of conversations, diagrams, we came back with additional information. So through this process and through these focused conversations, we really started to identify the scope and the size of the project. What you see up on the screen is a space summary. So this is actually generated by the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Even though this project isn't utilizing funds from the MSBA, we as designers still utilize this because what it is, it's a fancy spreadsheet that is an inventory of all the spaces. So it says the name of the space, it says the size of the space, and it says the quantity of the spaces. So you plug it into this spreadsheet, and you can apply a grossing factor, and at the end of it, it's all calculated to give you your total building size. So what's up on the screen and what's in the packet on the left is a 2019 expansion study. There was a space summary done in 2019 to begin to identify the approximately 30,000 square foot building project that was submitted to the MSBA multiple times. What's on the right, highlighted with the green, is the updated version. There are some modifications, some revisions based upon those focused visioning sessions. And ultimately, at the end of all of this, landed on a project just over 36,000 square feet. That's where the 36,294 came from. Now, one thing to note is that this is not the first round of the space summary. When we initially did this, we were at, what, 41,000, 42,000? So, significantly higher. Follow-up conversations to really work with the district and to begin identifying any efficiencies, any overcorrections, and really to identify what the actual size is. So that it reduced down to the 36,000, approximately 36,000 number.
Justin, can I just, for the context
Absolutely.
for the group, so when you're referencing the 2019, we started with a joint space study committee with the town in 2017. And at that time, there was significant concern about all of the Chapter 40B developments that were coming in and the pace at which the town was growing. So that original space study committee had looked at multiple options for how we could address this. One was looking at a Freeman expansion because the building was designed with expansion in mind. So that was the first thing. We looked at the possibility of expanding at H. Olive Day and what would be the possibilities there. And then we looked at the possibility of a third site and doing an early childhood center. Based on all of the data and the things that we looked at that time, it was decided the expansion was probably the most cost effective. So we went to the town at the town meeting in I think it was the fall of 2019, and they funded a high-level conceptual study just to see if physically we could fit enough classrooms in that kind of addition to make this a viable option for further study. So when Justin's talking about the 2019, that was only high-level, like square footage, system capacity. If you move the preschool, you need a nurse, you need like OT, PT, like so what spaces would you need and could we fit them? So it wasn't like the big study that AI3 did. It was, I think, $10,000, the total over big picture design piece. So,
right. Yep. Yeah. Very good points of clarification. And along the way, please feel free to stop me and ask me any questions. We've been through it multiple times, so but we can expand upon any of this.
I noticed the addition of 1,000 square feet for dining. Is that would that be a separate dining facility for this new addition, or is it?
Yep.
Would there be kind of moving the existing cafeteria?
Yes, as part of the study with the increased enrollment, we were asked to take a look at, okay, what happens when you bring in that many more kids? Can the existing facility fit it? So initially, we had targeted 1,000 square feet to accommodate that additional growth. Based upon configurations and based upon further analysis, it can actually be accomplished by just utilizing and reconfiguring the number of tables and the configuration within the space. So that is a component that could possibly drop off because how it currently is configured, it's landlocked.
Yep.
So it would be quite a significant add to move the kitchen, move district administration. Really, there's a big jump for something that could be accomplished by additional tables and reconfiguring.
Makes sense.
We did look at that, though, because we are going from class sizes of 128 having lunch to 170 kids we have to seat. So that's what we ideally, you'd make the cafeteria space bigger. But cost was prohibitive, and so we looked at other ways to look at it.
So what does that 36,000 square feet actually include? What's up on the screen is a floor plan of the first floor. And before we hop into the actual expansion scope flagged on the left, I just wanted to mention the items in green on the right. The green items are existing spaces within the current school that will be reallocated for who utilizes those. So minimal work, maybe a little bit of ceiling work, floor repair, paint, but nothing like a holistic project. It's minor renovation, just to reconfigure based upon the new occupants or program of that type. So.
And some of that's, for example, like the science lab that we've now made a classroom. Ideally, we turn that into a permanent classroom and move the science lab to a different area. So those are just opportunities we have to reorganize so that it's better efficient and better flow.
Right, and this was looking at more of a holistic approach based upon student needs, student services, really locating support spaces central within the building. We're not locating a space that is utilized by the entire student population at the end of a third grade wing, or whatever it may be. So it's actually really apparent on the second floor. You'll see when I flip up there. But this was an allocation and almost a global study of where can spaces be located with minimal renovation, reconfiguration to make it work best now that there is some capacity issues addressed with that expansion project. So that's what the green is. Within the expansion scope, first floor is the pre-K component. So it's all of the pre-K classrooms, it's the pre-K sensory space, it is the associated toilets with all the pre-K rooms. It's also the special education administration and component. As mentioned, the special education is going to move over from HOD to here and really be the front office, as you will, for the pre-K component. So that includes that entire staff. It also includes OT, PT. It also has the pre-K nurse. And all of that program is located within right here. That is the main entry to the pre-K component. So again, directly adjacent, and then around it are the classrooms and the sensory space. Again, connection, the 3-4 wing, the 5-6 wing down here, adjacent to the stair towers, the existing stair towers with doors that can close off and lock, still allow access internally, but that would be something that would be controlled with key cards, etc. But again, always allowing free access from a code perspective in an emergency, but still also separating the youngest students with the 3 through 5 or 3 through 6.
Sorry if I missed it, but just, so the main entry for that would be in the back there?
Main entry is right here to the pre-K component.
Okay.
And we designed that too so that the preschool traffic won't interfere with the bus flow traffic from the rest of the building. So there's a separate entranceway and there's a separate road that comes and exits out the back of the building.
But that proposal will replace the existing access road back there?
Yeah, you have to move the access road over.
Shifted? Okay.
Just shifting it over a little bit so that it's not over the electric.
Back towards the woods. And you'll see on the site plan, it adds actually 43 parking spots back there with a little bit of a drop-off loop dedicated to the pre-K component. And that way, they're on that side of the site in totality.
Yeah.
Arrival, dismissal, all of that stuff, preschool play, everything is over there. And that's why, and their main entrance is over there. They don't need to use the front of the building over here. So going up to the second floor, again, similar. Anything in green has been reallocated. So this is where it becomes a little bit more obvious from the types of spaces. For instance, speech, social worker, and psychologist are now located on the second floor right in this center bar. Easy access to the 3-4 wing and the 5-6 wing, centrally located to both. That is really the nature of all of the green and the reconfiguring.
Prior, their offices were on different floors and in different wings of the building, so those offices are then repurposed. Yeah, right now.
Currently.
Currently, you're right.
Right. As far as the expansion scope, this is where your 3 through 6 components live. So your classrooms for grades 3 through 6, I'm just going to sit on this side just because. So classrooms are over here. This is also where the teacher workroom and conference area is right now. It's actually the speech office, which is vastly undersized. It's tiny. So locating the conference room over here, as well as the STEAM classroom, which is that science lab that is essentially going to be replicated over the expansion. The art classroom. The current art classroom is inadequate in ventilation for the kiln, as well as location. It's within the 3-4 wings, so by locating in the center zone here, it brings it more central. It also creates a nice connection between the STEAM classroom and the art classroom and the makerspace within that as a tech center.
Sorry, what's the function of the teacher conference and then the teacher workroom? Is that like a break room or?
It's a room where, yes, if teachers' classes at specials and they have prep work to do, it's where the copiers are and all of the teacher planning materials. Right now, we have the teacher planning room in the speech office. So we would be moving the speech people there and moving the teacher prep room to the wing.
So think like laminators,
Copiers, printers, all of the stuff that they, all the materials.
At the school I went to, I mean, I guess obviously bigger. The school I went to when I was a kid, it was like all just in like the administrative office, like was all that stuff.
Yeah, we don't. We have the teacher prep room, which is where they do all of the materials preparation for the day during speeches.
Okay, and then the conference room is just like a boardroom type room?
It's a prep room. It's one space. They can use it for prep, or if they could have a teacher meeting, parent meetings, or small group meetings within that one space, one office space. So it's a multi-purpose room, really.
Okay.
Yeah. So that makes up the second floor. That is the 36,000 square feet. That 36,000 also includes grossing factors. So that's things like your stairs, your hallways, your toilets, the wall thickness, all of the stuff that is required just to make the building physical. So 36,000 square feet from a 36,000 square mile overview. Site plan here, you can start to see the configuration of the pre-K drop-off, site access, 43 parking spots would be added, a loop road for pickup and drop-off, or longer duration parking. You can actually pull into a spot and park. Down here, in blue is the pre-K play area. A requirement by the state, it's actually connected to the building so they can circulate, the students can circulate out into a fenced-off area, have their play, and then they can go back in without crossing any of the roadways or any of the site. It does enclose the courtyard, but there are provisions for safe egress in the event of emergency, and there would be some reconfiguring within the courtyard to provide an outdoor classroom configuration, as well as to modify the current stormwater system. There's stormwater retention within the current courtyard. Also, there's a lot of retention system underground where the building would be. So that is part of the project to redo that for all the bio-retention areas you can see down here. There'd be one proposed over here to replicate what is lost by the new footprint of the building. So that is the building itself. Before hopping into projected cost of this version, and we'll go high level because it's approximately a year old, but before we hop into that, is there any questions on what was being included?
I think just to reemphasize, just in the square footage space adds 6 classrooms for Freeman, and it adds 7 preschool classrooms plus the office space. what you see, that science area, that's moving the art room over, moving the science room over, which gives us additional classrooms in the wing. So the total adds the 6 classrooms for Freeman, 7 preschool, plus the repurposed science and,
Yep,
and
exactly.
art room.
And that frees up space at Olive Day,
Well,
right,
we
for the
need more than
preschool.
6 classrooms. It gives us back some other classrooms that are located in the wing by moving the
Yeah.
art room and the, so really you're adding 8 classrooms because the art and the STEAM room are in the wing, but we're reclaiming.
I think he was asking too, that
Oh, it
frees up
does,
the adequate
yes.
space at the.
Yeah, so it,
So that's because-
it adds a net number of classrooms here,
And-
re-adds spaces that were previously used up, and frees up at the sister school, which that's what I'll just call the other one, for the preschool program,
Yes,
right?
it moves, it empties out 5 core classrooms that are preschool classrooms coming here, plus the special education office and multiple offices. So that's how originally this was designed as a solution that increased capacity of both buildings that are open.
But the space allows us to reclaim a lot of space. It's not
That was
even
previously
added,
lost.
it's just-
Right.
yeah.
Without having to build another gym or add to the cafeteria or add, because like.
Yeah, because that was the whole thing, was
little
it was just, it
ones
made more sense at this school versus like a whole rework at HL. And again,
Right.
part of this is just reiterating for the folks at home.
Yeah, and we did look at adding, as I said, back in 2017, and we looked at it again with Flansburgh, who did the 2019 study, as well as AI3, the idea of adding to H. Olive Day. The problem with doing an addition at H. Olive Day is the building's 35 years old. It was significantly more expensive to bring the building up to code if we added onto it there, and the life expectancy of an average school is 50 years, so we would be investing a lot in the renovation, plus it's built to the footprint of the land.
Yeah, versus here, you're actually going to have a much longer useful life. And then if down the road, years down the road, obviously, if money frees up from the state or something, it would probably go over there, I'm guessing.
You could do a
Yeah.
repair, yeah.
Yeah, down the road.
I mean, and if we're reiterating things for the hordes of people watching this at home, you can't, I know, I've had folks ask me, there's all that space behind H. Olive Day, why can't you go back? That's conservation land, so it is statutorily prohibited.
Versus here, the
Development.
original footprint allows for this
Yep,
also.
exactly, yep.
Okay.
So, looking at it from a cost perspective, again, what is up on the screen, it's a graph from the MSBA. We know it's not an MSBA project, but the MSBA does a very good job at tracking construction costs in the K-12 market. That's all they do, that's all they fund. They watch that constantly through multiple phases of the project. And they have historical data all the way back to 03, 04, back when they started the programs for system. So again, and this is also from a year old, so keep that in mind as we go through it, but all the data up to here is still accurate. So the current, or the Freeman Kennedy project back in 2010, just to give everybody a sense and a scale of where you were 14 years ago. Construction cost, average, or for Freeman Kennedy, was $263 a square foot. I know it's hard to believe, that's what it was in 2010. Moving that forward, the MSBA identifies the average cost. The dashed orange line is what we're projecting the average is because those projects aren't in closeout yet. So in 2021, the average construction cost is $509 a square foot. So over 10 years, we'll call it, it doubles, basically. We're going to come back to this shortly to see where the project fits in, but that's really setting the table, and you can see the boxes are all trending up. So during the feasibility study last year, we had a professional cost estimator because all of our projects, very familiar with the K-12 market and public bid, actually go through and provide a cost estimate based upon the floor plans, the site plan, the narratives for the project that you just saw. It's broken down into a handful of elements. The building construction, separate line item for cost. Site work, so you can identify, okay, how expensive is the site. Phasing, general conditions, general requirements, insurance, etc. These are the bucket of monies that are required just to build the project. Everybody's fees, etc. Soft costs additionally, so that is technology, that's FF&E. That is engineering fees from the architectural and the entire design team, that's OPM fees. Your project is big enough, you will need an OPM as it progresses through. So all these items are broken out as a line item just to give everybody a sense of where everything is landing. Additionally, there were 4 items identified for building and site improvements. So that's based upon your existing building and current configuration. If you're going to go to the town for money, make it worth it from a perspective of instead of going back and borrowing if additional capital repairs are needed for this building. So number 1 is replacing the mechanical system chiller. It's located over the gymnasium. There have been comments and concerns with it previously. Number 2.
It's at the end of life expectancy too.
Yes.
It will need to be replaced coming up on 15 years. Yeah.
Exactly. Number 2, existing playground update. So that is repouring that soft poured-in-place surface, fixing the fencing, fixing some accessibility items as well, updates to the playground. 3, replace all the existing rooftop units. If you're doing the chiller,
The rest are all
at their end of useful life. You're going to start replacing units here and there. What is it going to cost? Again, this is to provide a cost. What is it going to cost just to do all the units on the roof, one shot? And then number 4 is replace the entire fire alarm system. So that is within the existing building to update it and to align it with possibly whatever is provided in the new expansion project.
Is that at end of life too, or is that just?
It's not at end of life, but I believe it's a proprietary system, so it's very expensive to service and to get parts, and you're locked into a specific vendor.
Oh, so it would be replaced with like more open source type?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We've had a lot of trouble with getting people out to fix or repair or getting parts because it's a proprietary system, so only certain people or only one vendor is able to work on it. Matt can speak more to this. I know more than I should, but I don't know anywhere near as much as Matt would.
And Matt's predecessor had the same position, I believe, about the fire system. Yeah.
Plus, if we're adding on, it makes sense to have the 2 systems aligned together.
I'm just more concerned that the previous system sounds like it was a bit of a dud. Does it work if there's a fire?
Yeah.
All right.
It works, but it's
Sometimes it works if there's not a fire.
Let's just say, so we had a smoke alarm giving us trouble the other day, and they came out and looked at it, and the tech called me and he said, look, they're going to tell you that we don't make these heads anymore, so they're going to end up telling you got to replace all the heads in this building over again. He goes, you're better off going on eBay or looking somewhere else to see if you can find these heads. And so we ended up doing that, but most of those detector heads are $400 to $600 a piece.
That sounds suboptimal.
Again, it's a proprietary system, so you're stuck with paying it.
So, one question. So, between the 2 projects, if we go either the stick-built or the modular, are these items still going to be addressed? So in other words,
these are those 4 items were optional. So the town could decide, yes, we want to vote and just do the project and do these as later capital. If you do them a modular, if you do a different solution, these still are end of life. They're going to have to be, whether the town votes to do them as individual capital items at a later time, but they're all end of life. And the idea of quoting it was if we have a crane on site and we're doing all this work, are we going to save mobilization? So I would imagine that these items, except for possibly the fire alarm, depending on what solution and if it's not connected, many of these would still go forward. Or if we don't do anything, these items will come individually to the town in the next 5 years.
In separate borrowing.
But eventually,
yes. Separate debt exclusion.
So eventually they'll get on the ballot regardless of which project.
These things have to be done. Yeah, they're all end of life.
But they'll get on the ballot regardless of which.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll break, just like we did here, we'll break those out as 4 separate items, just so everybody has that information. And then this group can determine whether we want to go forward with all of them, none of them, one of them, whatever it may be, but at least they'll be pricing for it at this point. So, looking real quick, and I believe this is in the packet, I'm not going to run through all of the specific numbers. What I am going to do, though, is if you take all of these numbers and add them up, it gives you $32.9 million. That is the construction cost, estimated construction cost of the stick-built brick and mortar expansion project last year. We add in project soft costs, so again, FF&E, technology, fees, contingency, It brings the estimated total project to between 39.7 and 43.8, however you want to count that. So that range is identified by adding everything up and then plus or minus 5%. So really that's a 10% delta from that actual, it's a 10% range, but it's a 5% delta from the actual added numbers. So how does that compare to the MSBA chart? So the MSBA chart is construction cost only, not total project. So that's on that 32.9 million that we looked at. If you take that, divide it by the square foot, where you're landing, again, a year ago, is $727 a square foot. The projected average, extrapolating from that line, and that's just our best guess and assumption at the time, the average is approximately $775, so slightly below the average, but still, again, you can look at the delta. From 2010 to 10 years later, you're up almost $250, so that's 10 years. 5 years, you're up another $250. That is COVID escalation. Basically, it's all
inflation is the term.
Inflation. It's that whole situation that we all lived through. That is how it materializes in construction costs. So again, still within the lower than the average, projected average. And I will say it'll be interesting. And again, this was a year ago. We're going to send these out to get re-estimated, and we're going to see where that 39.2 lands, and we'll report that and include that with the comparison to the actual mod study, just so it's, again, apples to apples, because that number will go up, absolutely. It's just how much, where is it landing in comparison. So. And then the last one was the project timeline. If it moved forward previously, it was going to be town meeting, town election, 2023, 2024, fall, November, December, January of 2023-24. Then it was going to go through documentation for approximately a year and bidding. It was targeted to go back to town meeting in fall of 2024 with bids in hand saying, okay, this is the actual cost of the project, here's bids and for the actual work, and then to proceed, go to the vote, and then begin construction. 2-year construction window, so occupancy would be fall target of 2026. So September 1 of 2026, whatever that first day of school is, 2026. This, again, it's a year old. All of this is going to shift at least 1 year based upon timelines, etc. So occupancy would be fall of 2027 as we stand right now, if everything moves as originally laid out and organized. So that's the overview of the previous work. I'm going to pause there to see if there's any additional thoughts.
The full feasibility study, if anybody wants, it's online on our webpage. It's 150 pages or so. It has the traffic studies, all of the septic engineering, all the rest of that.
So I printed these large because what we're going to go through next are the layouts of the mods, and small print. So, figured it may make it a little bit easier. So option 1, 2, and 3. Option 1 is what we'll call the apples to apples option. Same location, just a little bit of separation, but on the existing access road, over the existing utilities, but close to the building. Again, indirectly connected, so we can't physically connect. Redirection of service road and utilities, and minimal tree removal. Basically the same spot as the previous version, so minimizing disturbance of the trees. This is the most efficient footprint for the mods. Single straight line. Modular unit is 14 by 66 or 14 by 39. So based upon those dimensions, units, that is where everything goes up. Some of the high-level components, it's still the same configuration. First floor is on the left, second floor is on the right. So on the first floor, it's all your pre-K classrooms, the pre-K sensory space, the special education administration suite, it's OT, PT, the pre-K nurse. It's all of those same programmatic elements, just straightened out and in a narrow bar, essentially, because of the modular configuration. Again, every toilet in pre-K still, or every classroom in pre-K will still have a dedicated toilet, but you can see the efficiency and where everything is landing. Same concept, pre-K entrance, still centrally located towards the back. So the site plan configuration is very similar to what we have. And then the connection point, again, would be one at each end from the actual Freeman Kennedy side here. Students going outside, access to the stair towers on the end, and then would circulate up to the appropriate classrooms. Second floor, again, this is the elementary.
Can I just ask, those stairs are interior, they're enclosed?
Interior
Okay.
stairs, yep. Yeah, so the path of travel would be flat on the sidewalk.
Yep.
Straight. Yep. Second floor, same configuration, all the classrooms, that teacher planning space, the steam room, the art room, the maker space. It's all of those same programmatic elements, just straightened out and separated from the building. Looking at this right here, so as I mentioned, there are limitations based upon modular sizes. How close to that 36,294 square feet can you get? Right now, this configuration here is 35,642. So it's about 500 square feet or so off. So it's pretty close. I'd say it's comparable based upon the amenities. Spaces are slightly above and below, but they're pretty close. And that is one thing that we tried to do on all of these options, is that all of the program spaces, we tried to get as close to the initial option. That way it truly is a comparison for it. So pre-K classrooms are 3 modular bays. An elementary school classroom are 2.5 modular bays. And then everything else works in between, with whether it's offices, etc. Site plan for option 1. Looks again very similar. That access road with the drop-off loop, parking spots off to the left, and you can see how there is that slight separation between the existing and the mobs. Again, reparking the courtyard to match the previous version, and it's very similar, just pulling the building. Any questions on option 1? And we can go back as we need to. But.
The classroom labels are just suggestions, right?
They're mirroring, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. They're mirroring what we had in the addition. Now, if we went with a modular solution that is not connected, we may have to rethink, do we move the art room? Because now everybody in the building has to go to the modulars. We might have to, but we need the same number of space, so for estimating purposes, it's probably fine. But we might have to rethink, do we want the science room that everybody accesses to be in the modulars, or like, we'd have to really rethink that a little bit.
Yeah, the reason I asked again, it's just like I was just wondering, like, if those rooms are locked in for, if there's another reason, then that's a consideration, like if we're having kids kind of coming in, and
right.
Like you said. But another thing to kind of consider too, these are 3 spaces, so like we don't have anything, we don't have a classroom of 3 or grade level of 3, so then we might have to then break up either, you know what I mean? Like,
well, there's 6 classrooms.
The grade cohorts are going to have to be split for the older kids. Yeah.
So just something like just everything. I was just like kind of taking. It's not going to be like such a even.
No, what we'd probably end up doing, because there's 6 classrooms there, and we had moved the art room and the makerspace, and it would make sense to have the teacher planning room in a building not connected to where the majority is.
Right.
We might put a full grade level. So we have 8 classrooms, so we might have 8 elementary classrooms and keep the teacher planning room and other things displaced.
And if this is the option we go through, obviously, I just wanted to make sure that, like, when we're kind of looking at these plans, like, because for comparison purposes, I understand us like mirroring, but it's really not that clean cut is basically what
No, we'd have to reorganize what actually lands. But I think when we went through the process before, we had talked about having project spaces and extra rooms.
Right.
We cut everything out. We only put in the classroom. So we we need all of these spaces. What
Right.
actually lands, we might have to play around with.
Right.
Do you have any clients, or are there any examples of a modular building of similar quality going up in the general area?
Yes.
As a permanent solution?
No.
Yeah.
So like, I'm curious, 'cause, like I would love to maybe get to do, like, I mean, if you had something even in the state, I'd go, like I'd love to kind of see what it entails, like maybe like a site visit or something.
Yeah, honestly, so I don't want to jump ahead too much, but a lot of times when we do this analysis, it's determined that financially it doesn't make sense from a long-term investment. It's not fiscally responsible to do a mod. We have done them.
Watertown has one
But
now.
they're temporary.
Yeah, Watertown's
More
going up
often
as
than
is
not. Yes.
temp
They're more
before
temporary.
the.
So yeah, for instance, Watertown right now actually is occupying modulars. 2 stories, it's their entire high school, just as swing space. What they got for modular level quality would be the lower level option here. So that medium tier, not your construction trailer, but your sort of
Yeah.
lower level of
Yeah.
the 2 that we're pricing. And they're only occupying them for, I believe, 2 to 3 years, just while the new high school is built. They are permanent mods, but they're only using them for 2 to 3 years, and then they're dismantling them. And
Are there parts of the country where these are more common as a more permanent solution, or is it just generally speaking used as a temporary solution?
I would say I can't accurately state. My assumption would be that where we don't have
Winter.
that's cool for winters.
Yeah.
Because you're walking outside. So I mean, even in just stick-built buildings, you see in California, there's a lot of open corridors and your covered walkways, whereas you would never do that up here in the winter. So that would be more of where modulars may make more sense when the weather is more favorable to actually allowing students to circulate in and out, not worrying about freezing rain, cold days, snow, ice.
Because all that adds to the wear and tear on these type of buildings, right? Is
Well,
that-
it all adds to the wear and tear, but also you're requiring students and staff to walk outside multiple times a day whenever they go from one building to the next. So that really becomes the sticking point there.
There's certainly plenty of towns across Massachusetts that have put in temporary modulars that have kept them a lot longer than they
Yes.
intended. So
Absolutely.
you can find those. Hopkinton had
Yep.
temporary ones, and they're moving them. So I think they're probably level 2. I doubt they have a foundation, but I'd have to check. But I think the Watertown ones would be similar in quality to the
Yes.
lower level mods, so would be worth going and taking a look at if you're interested.
You know, I think that'd just be helpful to kind of say,
Yep.
like, what does this building kind of feel like? Does it look like something that is going to last a while? Like,
Yep.
you know, maybe finding out if Watertown's looking to sell those secondhand.
There you go.
So I understand between the two, the square footage is going to come in very close, right? What about volume? Right, is the volume of the building, right? So when I walk into this library, ceiling's quite tall. When I go into HOD, I don't know what it is, but it's not 8 foot,
Yeah.
No.
right? It's like,
Crowded, right?
yeah, so, and I'm getting it, right? Because the volume of the building is going to be significantly less. And that just kind of adds to the environment, or actually, it takes away from the environment, right?
Right.
It's a lot more cozy.
Closed in. Yeah.
So,
Ceiling height's a good question. What would be the ceiling height in the
Yeah, so
modulars?
the ceiling height of the stick-built would match what this is. We would match floor to floor, so it's a healthy ceiling height.
Yeah.
The mods would be less. It would be probably around an 8.5 foot ceiling within the spaces. So anywhere from an 850 to a 1,100, 1,200 square foot classroom at an 8 to 9 foot ceiling. Yes,
Yeah.
it would be cozy.
it's easier to change the light bulbs.
So what is, honestly, I've never been in one of the classrooms here. What's like the ceiling height for, like obviously it's not, the whole building's not like this.
Like half this? I mean,
You can see where the second floor starts over there, so
yeah.
we can walk into
So
the classroom after, probably. What are they, 15 feet, Justin? 20
Yeah, the
feet?
second floor is tall because of all the slopes on the roof.
Is that like efficient from a standpoint of like HVAC and stuff? I mean, like,
Volumetrically, it's way more space to heat and cool. from that perspective.
I almost feel like, could you split into 3 levels at that point? I mean,
It does allow daylighting, but from a heating and cooling perspective, it isn't as efficient as a...
Yeah, because that's why most places end up putting drop ceilings in, is to prevent like excess volume, right?
Yeah, there are some spaces do require a certain amount of volume for acoustic purposes, but a classroom is not one of those spaces.
For what purpose? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Acoustics.
Acoustics.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
band room and
Yeah,
choral.
band room, choral, anything, you need volume
Yep.
to allow it to project.
Library?
The library. Good acoustics.
Library media center. Exactly.
Like, does it make sense to make that more compact? Or, again, I know you kind of want to line it up here. I'm just trying to, like...
If it was stick built?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would match floor to floor. We absolutely can change the height of the ceiling on the upper floor and that roof level. Absolutely.
Because I imagine that maybe changes material needed and operating costs, right? I mean, obviously you need space to have the pipes and the wires and all that stuff run through the place, but I'm just trying to, anywhere we could shave a little, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. That top floor doesn't need to, or the roof doesn't need to align exactly with your existing. If we wanted to lower it and reduce your energy use and consumption, that absolutely is an opportunity. We would still say keep your floor to floor heights the same. That way you're walking level from the second floor. But that upper roof, we could absolutely play with. And again, your current situation is because a lot of it's sloped and it's variable, so it's that's all been accounted for in the estimate as a level roof at a reasonable height, not necessarily all the way at the top, not at the bottom, but as sort of a middle ground to match the floor to floor.
Okay.
Site plan of option 1 talked about. So option 2, this is the 2-story mods, and this is actually taking them and pushing them further back towards the woods. Again, trying to avoid that perimeter access road and all the underground utilities that are right where the previous options were planned. So looking at this configuration, we're tucking it into the woods. You'll see on the site plan here in a moment, but it's really in an L configuration. Again, first floor is pre-K, second floor is the elementary school. All of those same components and rooms are separated, first floor, second floor, same configuration. What we've done is that central control point, special education, OTPT nets, etc., is in the knuckle from a visibility and from a control standpoint, and then we have 2 wings off that. And then up to the second floor, that knuckle is future planning, and some support spaces, and then classrooms stem off of that in each direction. The stairs are located at each end, as well as one in the center as well for easy access up and down, but also to provide the code required stairs for this space because it is long.
And then this obviously requires the kids to cross that access road.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this one is 35,509 square feet approximately. So it's what, 700 less? And this is what the site plan would be. Again, we took that same drive loop and parking, and that is now where the access road currently is. The building is further back. We're maintaining the perimeter here, but more for emergency access, so that can be gated off just to allow or to avoid having parents drive through the parking, because in reality, this hardscape plaza is where the elementary students are going to be, what they're going to be using to circulate to the modular units. And we don't want them crossing this component here, so that's what that's for, so we would block off this road so there's no through traffic. And again, same configuration of parking, it would drop off to the pre-K component. Playground is located at the northern side, and then there would be some work within the courtyard. So a lot of similar configuration, or same amenities, just different configuration based upon where the footprint is located.
So that crossed off area would be walkway where people would
Yes.
access
Yep.
from the from the building wings, which you can see, over into the modular.
Exactly, so.
And that would not be a covered walkway because of the distance. That would just be out.
So that would be the
outside.
back and forth to lunch, library, gym?
Yep.
For the, okay,
Yep, that would be the back and forth for students and staff.
the older kids, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
We touched on this a little bit, and maybe it's a question for after the third one's presented, but have we quantified what the loss is of class time, the additional or reduction needed in staff? Are we gaining any efficiencies by having one plan over the other? Right, because to go from A to B in the first plan versus A to B in the third plan, there's a difference there.
Yeah, we did not quantify that and couldn't even begin to, but you're absolutely
We would probably
correct.
have to
The first
We
one
would
being
need to do
closer-
that next. I think what we need to do is look at all three and get pricing, and if this is way off the charts, then it's not worth spending the time on that. But
Yeah, okay.
yes, when we budget within the school day of 5 minutes of transition time, when a class is going to gym and back, that is going to add, and they do go to lunch and one special daily. So it will increase the amount of learning time. And as we talked about last time for special education or math and reading or other kinds of services, kids will be traveling further. But I think before we get into the details and really look at the traffic flow, we want to figure out if these are viable or cost efficient. And then we'll have to take the next step for this committee to weigh what are the pros and cons of each.
And just to piggyback on that, just like as an FYI, the length of the school day is dictated by the teacher's contract. So we can't just say, okay, we'll add 5 minutes
Yeah,
on
no.
every school day and have that be a thing that doesn't get, you know what, like,
Oh, no,
if
I
it
totally
accumulated
get
to the
it. That's
point
what I'm
where the
concerned
day,
about.
yeah, no,
Right, the amount of
share your
losses.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
concern.
Yeah. I would think if this and the one where it's closer or similar in price.
Yeah.
This would be the best solution.
Right. So option 3 is the single-story modular. This is located on the field area right out front. Here. It's the largest footprint because it's taking that same area and just putting it on one level. Far access, as you can see. And yeah, we would have to look at utility connections further if this was a viable option because it's outboard of where a lot of the utilities currently service the building. From a floor plan perspective, similar-ish to the previous L version. What we've done is we've located the control, so special education, nurse, etc., in this knuckle. And really what happens and how we organize it is that the pre-K component is running vertical on the left, and then this becomes your elementary school component here. Classrooms over on the end, and then what we currently have are more of the support spaces, teacher training, etc., in the middle, again, for more of a control within the building. It also starts to locate the entrance as close as we can towards the existing gymnasium corner. And you'll see from a site plan perspective, what it does is that it actually, we're keeping a lot of the same configuration here. Actually, existing parking remains here and here. We're adding in a drive aisle here for drop-off, and this would become your pickup and drop-off for pre-K. We do have some questions regarding timing because this is also near bus loop and how that all works. But based on our traffic analysis and study, we could capture the 43 identified spots for that pre-K component in your existing parking. It was identified during traffic counts that over here on the left is always full. This large bank of parking right here is approximately 50% full during the day, and then all the way on the right, that whole loop, even down to here, is 10% utilized throughout the regular day. So there absolutely is efficiency that could be utilized and gained with it being up there just from a parking perspective. Granted, there are other cons, it's a large footprint, use green space, etc., but from the parking standpoint, there is that little bit of offset.
And this, just as a reference, if we locate this here, this takes away the play field that's used for recesses currently.
Yep.
And so then the students that have to transition between the buildings are
Coming out.
coming out and walking up this new access road and then coming up that way? Okay, on the, hitting the corner of the building, okay.
So out the gym, out by the gym and
And then
staff
coming in
doors,
that
and then
door.
just up to the field.
All right.
Yeah, one of the issues is where do you access the existing? You don't want to come into the gym, so it could be like that after-school area, but then you're still going through the gym, or you come all the way down across the front of the gym and in that other main entrance right on this side of it. So there are some concerns, or rather thoughts that need to take place, sort of what door do they actually use, which could possibly extend the travel distance to
So just getting to the point of the recess area, so would there have to be an additional space created to replace that, or?
I don't know where we would create another one. I think we would lose the field. The kids do during the day, the rec fields we sometimes use, it's a longer walk, and whether we could work out something like, I know they're not going to want us on the softball fields they just redid, but could we use some of those field areas? It's a challenge because they're further away, and recess is only 15 minutes. So if you spend 5 minutes walking out to the field, you lose time. Most likely we would, and I mean, they don't use it a lot when it's heavy snow, but it would limit play options if we located it there.
That's the play area on your way out to the softball fields, the smaller one.
Yes, it's the one, if you're just right in front of the building, there's that big field behind the parking area, and the kids do use that. Some
Where
kids
you
play
go
in the
over like
playground
into
and
the
other people
Gaga
go
pit
on
and then past that.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called, the Gaga pit, and the pit thing.
Yep, the Gaga pit, yep.
The Gaga pit.
So,
But you chose these 3 locations because of the amount of square footage we need, the size of the building, and based on all of the available land on the Freeman Kennedy site. So
Right.
those were the only 3 options that would accommodate.
yes, those are the 3 options, because if we located it, for instance, on the parking lot,
Yep.
well, one of them is your leach field for your septic, so we don't want to put it there. If you want to locate it on the other ones, we could work to fit it in, but then you have to replicate that
Right.
elsewhere. So our take was, don't disturb what you have that you will ultimately need, if possible, and locate the modulars where it makes sense, trying to avoid some of those items. That's why it's an apples to apples. That's why it's pushing it back to avoid some of those known conditions with your utilities and your stormwater, and then that's why it's the field up front. So.
I think the big thing, as Vicki mentioned, is in all 3 of these designs, it gives you the square footage we need and the number of classrooms. We would need to really rethink educational programming, and I don't see us locating the makerspace, the art room, and teacher planning in the modular, just because it wouldn't make any sense. We would have to pick a grade level like grade 6, move other classrooms and other spaces and reorganize, again, like we did in the last feasibility, what would we reorganize within the building to accommodate? But I don't think that matters for pricing necessarily. Is that correct?
So some of those spaces are larger than a typical classroom. Art, the STEAM room, and the makerspace, those 3 rooms are larger than a classroom. So that would increase or if we went to just traditional classrooms, it would reduce the size slightly, if we wanted to go down that road.
Would there then need to be work done internally here to fit out?
We'd have to look at where we're putting them back.
Yeah, right, because
Yeah.
then you would need to expand on existing space, like
Well, they already existed before, right? Was
Well,
work
right now,
done
the
to?
science room is been taken apart and it's a classroom.
Okay, so it has been like physically,
already been physically-
it wasn't just, we pulled out some lab tabletops and.
That's what we did. We pulled out labs, so the sinks are still in there. We didn't do the reconstruction, but it's functioning as a classroom.
Yeah, but if you move that, if you said, okay, kids, your classroom is now in
Yeah.
here, what would it take to make that into a science lab again?
Right, we could put that back, and then we'd have to look at.
You said the art room currently is
Art
not
room,
sufficient for the
it has issues
ventilation?
with the venting of the kiln. So with that, we could.
Do some moderate.
Yeah, let's go back just to talk to something. So makerspace, STEAM classroom, and the art room. We could take those 3 spaces and make them traditional classrooms. Those spaces would then have to land within this existing building.
I'm thinking that would make more sense, just because then we would put the science lab back, the art room back, the STEAM room back, because I just don't think
one
It
grade
wouldn't make
level
any
moving
sense
back
for
and
me to
forth,
say
yeah.
24 teachers are here, but everybody's going to walk to the mod for planning. They won't do it.
And does every grade use, like, are like third graders using the makerspace? Like, how does that
They
kind of
do
work?
use that.
And for the makerspace, I imagine is like one of those
Makerspace
little
is like an
3D printer things?
Engineering, computer, and design lab.
Okay.
And they have
they
an
use it.
audio
It's a
visual
big
thing, that's where they do.
program.
Yeah,
Actually,
they do their
AV
green
stuff we
screen,
have to follow,
they
so
do
it's
the
like
robotics,
science.
all of that there.
And that goes back to kind of the volume,
It's not
right?
like a
Where do you want a
optional,
space
we
like
have to
that? Do you want to
meet
have
the standards.
that in an 8.5-foot space, or do you
No,
want to
I
put that
think
back
if
into
the
the...
modular
That's what I
would
mean, you want to
bring
put
it,
it back
yeah.
into the traditional
Yeah,
space.
So with that, for instance, the science lab,
yeah.
we're not going to change the footprint of that. It
No.
is what it is. The walls are there. We will just reinstall, the price to reinstall the amenities to turn
Yep.
it back to a
Science lab, right.
So,
kind
so
of
the modular area.
And again, it's
will-
not ideally laid out because the building's grown, the population's
Right.
grown, so it's in
Right.
one wing. The makerspace, the current engineering lab is behind the staircase there.
Yep.
So everybody
It's not
is
big,
small,
yeah.
they're not ideally laid out, but for pricing purposes, I think it would be unrealistic that we would put those specialized places in.
Because
in
having the
mod.
entire student population from this building
Right.
transiting.
Then we'd have people going
Yeah.
both ways.
It-
Well,
yeah.
wasn't
Like-
part of the plan to have like the entire preschool basically into the new building, so that would, right, did I miss? Because they don't have to move around, they don't have to use the cafeteria, all that,
Right.
like.
Right,
But you
so
have
they're
the other
self-sustaining,
classrooms.
and then the
Yeah.
second floor was the classrooms
yeah,
in the
okay.
maker, in the built-in addition. But one thing that I don't think you mentioned, Justin, in the brick and mortar feasibility design, the pre-K, there is no access into the pre-K classrooms from the building. So 4th, 5th grade can't go into the preschool hall. The doors are locked with key codes, but the upstairs is connected. So like your class could walk through to
It's-
get to the
it's
science
circular
lab.
flow.
It's a circular building.
Yeah, so first floor, you can see a door here. That is controlled to
Controlled access, yeah.
avoid any 4th grader from walking into pre-K.
Is that the same for the modular?
Second floor, there's no door there. It's free access because it's all the same. It's all the elementary school students. Modular.
And the way it would really lay out is the library is the center here, the makerspace will be the center
But
of the
there-
back.
well, there is no
It would be
second
parallel to this.
There's no connection, so they would have to go to the first floor, and then it sounded like there was going to be some kind of like a key card, open the doors, let the kids go, close the doors.
Yeah.
So
now
here,
like
what we would do, Vicki, what we're just saying is you'd take the makerspace, the art, and the science room back out, and you'd make that all 6th grade. Like, you'd have 9
But the
classrooms.
6th graders could go into the preschool.
They would have access, yeah.
We'd have, no, could we lock the 1st grade?
We could put a door in.
We could put the door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, put a door.
But they
so
would have, that way at least they'd be
Have access
traveling.
into the stair towers to go up, and then we could key card it so they couldn't go into that
Into
first
the
floor
main
component.
floor. Mhm. Okay.
So it'd be a similar situation, but they're circulating up.
We would probably put two additional classrooms and a special education classroom there that serves the 6th grade, and then bring those other spaces back into the building. So you would have, and I'm not sure if it's 6th grade, but 1 grade level in a special ed classroom, and then those other places would come back in. And that way, at least you'd only have 1 flow of traffic. The kids
Right.
would be coming into the building, but we wouldn't be sending teachers and other kids back out.
Well, and it improves the equity of the situation for the
Yes.
upper grade students who are being placed in the more
Right, it would be an
remote
entire
locations so
grade
that- yeah.
versus just some kids versus others, yeah.
What about, so that all makes sense, we can update the plans. The size of these buildings will shrink because of that.
Yep.
What about the teacher planning space?
I think we would have to keep it here, just, because they have so little time to like.
You have to keep one for.
But you need to keep some space for the teachers
Oh,
in
for the
there.
teachers,
They're
yeah,
not going
that we
to
would
pack up
have
their
to,
winter
yeah.
boots when they have 20 minutes and trudge in
Right,
here to
no,
make
I-
Or do we, like,
copies. So you're
split
going
it
to
in half?
duplicate the
Because it-
space.
Yeah, no, I think you need to
only-
have some space there, but maybe it doesn't need to be as big. Like, so it's just for the grade level that's being situated in
Yeah.
that building? Because, I mean, just
Probably.
so that they have the
Yeah.
ability to.
Yeah, because
And if you have a parent meeting or a parent conference, you still need a teacher planning conference room. You're just going to have to duplicate it because, like I said, when people only have 30 minutes for a class, they're not
Yep.
going to come in to try to make copies. It wouldn't really work well.
And like a lot of times, like teachers will like, their classes come in, they're like, oh, I have to make more copies, I have
Yep.
to print this out. You want them to have easy access.
Hold on,
They can't-
everybody, I'll be right
They can't be running across.
Yeah, let me get my boots on.
Golf cart.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we can do, we can go through, update based upon that. Now, totally up to this group here. Do you want to meet in 2 weeks to take a look at them prior to sending it to estimating, or do you want us to make the updates and send it out to estimating? It's totally up to you guys, either or. I don't, depending on your comfort level of where.
Well, since we're not trying to rush for a like town meeting target, I'd kind of like to look at it one more time.
I would like to look at it again as well, and then
People feel.
yeah, Grace and Justin can.
I mean, would these be major material cost changes? I mean, it sounds like some slight
Just a
modification.
design change.
So honestly, what a lot of this is the price per square foot. Modular construction, they're gonna look at this, okay, see how many modular units there are, see how many we're making a middle wall versus a side wall. They're gonna look at bathroom counts. They're gonna look at the general configuration for mechanical plumbing systems, et cetera, for runs of piping and stuff, but the material conversation is really, it's the 2 levels. It's not getting into the nitty gritty of.
What does that mean? Like, it just, like, whether it's an art room or a classroom, I can't
It's
really
just
see
a
that.
slightly smaller footprint.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, materially, when we're talking about a,
So-
$40+ million project, I don't know how much.
Yeah, so the specialized spaces are slightly more expensive than a general classroom. There are some different treatments within them. So art, for instance, typically, based upon the nature of the curriculum, it's usually epoxy countertops or butcher block countertops versus a laminate countertop. The flooring in those spaces, we would also utilize a different flooring. It wouldn't be a tile, an LVT, a tile component. We would probably recommend a sheet good because there is the possibility of things spilling and you don't want all of those seams. So you want it as monolithic as possible. So we would recommend a sheet good product in there. But in general, the estimators will see those. There's a slight upcharge. They'll add a couple dollars per square foot for an art space versus a classroom space, and that's where everything will work out. But it's more high level where there's a general global level
Slightly
of
impact the
finish.
cost estimate.
Yeah.
But what I'd like the opportunity to do is just between now and the time we meet again, look at what we would be putting there for sure. Like looking at the special ed classrooms and looking at the current maps and could we keep everything where it is, just to make sure we're not missing anything. If that's okay with people.
That is totally fine with me. I'd like to meet again, and I would say, I mean, this is not an agenda thing or anything like that, but perhaps it could be before the next meeting. I have serious reservations about the third scenario.
Yeah.
And whether we should even be pursuing estimating with it, because I think the likelihood, like the far-flung
You mean the one,
story-
the L on the parking lot?
Yeah,
The one-
both of the first 2 options for modulars, I think, like logistically, they seem to make sense. They're comparable to to the intended use of the building if expansion was going to happen.
Yeah.
Eliminating,
Option 3.
eliminating almost the entirety of any green space that the school owns at this point.
Also, when you look at the footprint of it, basically is like the footprint of the existing school. It takes
It's
up a lot of
massive.
space. Yeah.
It's just-
36,000 square feet.
Yeah,
But yeah, one level, it just.
Yeah, and it just seemed, the sprawl of it and the disruption to traffic patterns and having the students walking across parking lots and roadways to get to and from the building, and I mean, just from the standpoint of if I was a resident of Boardman Street, having that be right in my face, in my front yard, I don't know, that to me seems like something that, I mean,
It's the least viable of all the solutions.
that's how
for sure.
it feels to me, and I wonder if it's efficient to even.
Well, the only question I had is one level.
That was
Would the construction of that be significantly less expensive than a 2-level situation?
Oh, that's a fair question.
Yeah.
It would be a pricing difference from the actual modulars, but your foundation systems would be more expensive because there's more of them.
And the utilities and everything have to be run and dug.
So also with a single story, you don't need stairs, you don't need an elevator. So
I think it's worth pricing.
Because that's why it's in the
not
mix, I think,
viable.
because that's what I was saying, because I think other than everything else about it isn't ideal, but the
Yeah.
cost is a big factor, I'm guessing.
Sure, yeah, no, it's a fair point,
It's the least
and not even just.
educationally sound.
I was going to say,
Right, so for me, it's not even like, I I won't have a student that attends the school by the time this finally gets done, right?
Yeah.
So like, that's not, it's a thing that I love it? No, but it's also just from a marketing standpoint to the school community as a solution. I think and cost is part of that.
Yeah, cost, I mean, safety, right? You got kids
Marketing
walking
aspect.
across an
If
open
there's cost, there's safety,
situation.
There's the elimination of anything green on school property, you know.
Sure.
I mean,
No, I think just if the cost is going to be that huge, I don't know if I want to necessarily, I agree. I think, is it my ideal scenario? No, but I think for what is the cost of getting it estimated in addition to the other two, you know what I mean, or the other, sorry?
A couple grand for an estimate.
Which, when we're talking about what we're talking
No,
about.
I mean, at $40 million for a project, a couple grand is fine. I mean, it's.
But I just
think
feel
in
like
the-
we want to look at all
In the interest of due
possibles.
diligence,
Yeah.
because I think in the end, regardless, even if there's a significant cost, when you start looking at it holistically, and the decreased education time,
Yeah.
and all the other factors that go in, it's going to work itself out.
Yeah,
But
I
think
do-
And
you
I
gotta
also
price
think
it.
if you look at them and the cost estimates come in and you're looking at, this is $5,000 less, what are we losing
Yeah.
with
Oh,
that? Do
yeah.
you know what I mean? I think it's a more compelling
That's why, like,
argument.
I'm not ready to completely eliminate, again, if I picked it right now, probably not my first choice, but I think in the matter of due diligence, and again, I already got some flack from people about eliminating the
Construction trailers?
the trailers, so I think I want to make sure we really show we made the effort.
And I think it totally makes sense. I just wanted to add, like, from my, like, you know, from what I do, is like, we also are required to meet certain educational minutes.
Yeah.
So for example, we have to have 120 minutes for English language arts, right? We have to have a certain amount of minutes for mathematics, for science, that are state required. So we also, that is a huge consideration when you do any type of educational space. We cannot, like, so, like, which I'm not saying like we should or should not look, but it's just like something to consider.
And I think we're going to have to do that, Vicki, the estimate of what the impact on
Right,
instructional
but
time
I
will
just
be.
want to let, like, for people who are kind of questioning, it's not as easy as, well, the kids can put on their boots and walk an extra 5 minutes. The problem with that is our day right now is so compact that we are just meeting what we need to meet to be able to offer the education that the state is requiring us to. When we start adding in like excessive travel time, we're like, that is something we might not be able to meet. So just to kind of like, this is all the things we have to consider. It's not just as easy as like, they can just walk a little bit, like, you know, just, so I just wanted to put it out there as like for the audience.
I mean,
you know,
but again, it's like one of those, let's just say, let's just say, you know, the cost comes in wildly different. I mean,
Then we
not
go to the
our
next
purview here in
phase
the
of
building
what are the other
advisory committee, but, you know, if you say, hey, to make this ideally work, it's going to take an extra 15 minutes a week or 10 minutes a day. I mean, I imagine you guys could work that out with the teachers union.
Actually, you would be amazed.
Yeah, I was going to say, so,
all right, it's either 15 minutes or you're eliminating 2 positions. I mean, you know, that's kind of.
No, it would have to be negotiated, and it would have an impact on cost. But I
Operationally,
think-
year over year, it would drive the costs of education in the town up. So it's
Right.
whether
Sure,
you want,
but
whether you want to pay for it in a debt exclusion, or whether you want to pay for it annually in the, like,
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the choice that the townspeople will have to make, though,
Right.
right? I mean.
Well, I think it's worth pricing all 3, and then, again, if there's a dramatic difference, then we look at the next step, like what does it mean for time on learning, what are the safety concerns, all the next considerations. But I think pricing, if they're pretty much equitable, then we can say, all right, well,
Yes,
if
absolutely.
they're all the same cost, let's not
Yeah.
bother doing it.
If it's all the same, it's not even in the conversation. But
Right.
again, like I said, the 1 level versus 2 level thing raises my red flag of this might be a big cost situation.
Yep, I think it's worth pricing all 3 to do due diligence, and then we have, I mean, just with the, I think your point, Vicki, is the decision won't just be on cost.
Right,
We have
right.
to
And
look
like
at
I
all the
said,
rest,
it
but-
was just kind of wanted
Yeah.
that there's so many things too, and I just
Right.
like for when you get questions, I just wanted to say that.
You know, like I said, I just don't want to bulldoze past something and then have people say, why didn't you even consider
Yes,
that? You know?
absolutely.
Right,
I think it's in our best interest to look and then get to the next step.
so I heard teachers union and teachers contract. So will this, I mean, if there's a significant impact to the day or whatever it is, the teachers union will have to
So
approve?
we
or-
can't change, we just
And I-
negotiated
that's what I'm
the
getting at.
contract.
You
So we
can't change the
cannot
day.
change the hours of the school day.
Right, and so that's my point, then that's what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
We can't change the hours of the day, so that's another way some of these will work their way out, right? Because that'll be a limiting factor regardless of cost.
Right, we'll have to look at, and then we're not scheduled, I mean, you could request to go into negotiations to
Yeah.
reopen the contract,
But here's the thing.
There's like
they
money-
don't have to.
How long do those contracts last? contract?
We have a
3
3-year
years.
contract, so that will
This
be
isn't done then?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, like that, like you're basically walking into the new window by the time this place is operational anyway.
Right.
But it still adds another.
But it's a predecessor contract, and you have to
Sure.
negotiate
Yeah.
a change, and time has a cost. So,
of
yeah.
course it
So-
does, but-
But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. Like, let's even see where these come.
Well, yeah, that's, and that's, yeah.
Value to that. Okay.
No, that makes sense. So we will update based upon that feedback. We targeted, perfect segue, next meeting we targeted, we can just confirm that it's approved with everybody here still, May 20th.
Yep.
Show updated floor plans.
Perfect.
If we're good to go then we'll send them out for estimating. If not, we'll revise and
Yep. Sounds great.
Is that one already calendared? 'Cause
I don't think we've sent the invite out
Okay.
yet. We just discussed the tentative dates at the last meeting, so I'll have Adrian send it to everybody tomorrow. Okay. 2 quick other agenda items for tonight. We have town meeting coming up next Wednesday, and committees are allowed to have time to give an update on the progress of the committee work. So we did ask the moderator for some time for our chair and vice chair just to update the community on the status of our work, which would basically be to say that, you know, we are in the process of looking at modular solutions. We're pricing 3 options. We completed the new demographic study. I'm not sure what else you were thinking.
It's
just to kind of let people know what's happened.
Jay
haven't watched all the
said
meeting.
5 or 6 minutes, maybe a minute or 2 longer, since it's kind of a big deal thing. So we're looking at like 7 or 8 minutes of time to just say, as you all recall, this is how we got to where we are, so that's my bit, and then Grace can launch into what we've all been up to as a committee, and, you know, I mean, maybe 5 or 6 slides. It's just sort of we're doing our due diligence, and we've been doing what, you know.
Well, the good news is we won't be the big agenda item on the menu, so you might be able to fly someone under the radar.
Well, I'd rather not, honestly.
Transparency-wise, we really want people to know we rebid the demographic study. The results are very similar.
Yeah.
We've got this data. We've looked at 3 modular options. We've decided not to go with construction temporary trailers because they don't have the long-term safety
Durability.
requirements. We're getting these prices. Then we'll determine if there's any other possible solutions we need to consider before we move forward with the next step. So something like that, but we'll give a brief update. And if there's
And I
any key
think-
points people want, maybe just send an email and we'll...
Yeah, and I think that Jay said he was going to have us go earlier. Normally, they get held until the end of the evening when the crowd thins out, but I think he's going to move us up a little bit on between some of the earlier warrant articles so that...
Don't they do committee reports first?
No, not usually. There's usually some sitting and waiting. I mean, it's fine, but I don't think that many committee, I think there's a cursory fire station committee update happening. I don't think there's an energy one this year, so then
Usually
just
the Housing Commission does that.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it should be pretty straightforward, but again, it's just so that we have a couple visuals to show people and remind them that we're still here and still talking about stuff, so, yeah.
And then the last thing I just wanted to preview with everybody, and I'll try to send the link out. We had talked about how to try to make sure that we're keeping the community informed and getting all the information in one place. So my executive assistant, Adrian, has been working for the past year to put together a building committee website where we would take all of the meetings that have been held over since 2017, put everything in one place for anyone interested in the project, look at the project timeline. She's got it really roughed out. I wanted to show it to you guys what it looks like. We've been working with the Office for Campaign Finance because we are a government agency, so we can't send information out to the public through government resources on something that's going to be a ballot question. We can make the information available through a link that people have to pursue and click and search on their own. So we can have a link to this. I have to figure out how to get, hold on 1 second. How do I disconnect for a minute, Ricky, because I got to find this. And then I talked to Justin about having a link to the page on the town site as well as our site. So I'll show you briefly what we have on there. If other people have ideas of things that we should include, we can do that. Just don't want to hear a lot. I have to open my What we've tried to put up so far is the project history. So I can never get this thing to work properly, so try to stay while you're here. So this is the rough outlook for what it would look like. Actually, on this, because we built this last year, you have the renderings, Justin, of the...
Yep.
That is the... Stop it, but...
All the happy renderings of happy students
These were
playing on
that's
that.
the rendering of what the brick and mortar edition looks like in the separate entrance. We certainly make it bigger. But what we have put on here so far is the meetings calendar. So this would have all of our meeting dates, upcoming meetings. So that's today's meeting. But if you scroll down, it has the recordings from all the other prior meetings.
That's great.
So everything that we've done would be on here, and that's the cable recording. We had started with the history of the Space Study Committee, so this kind of talks about what we did in 2017, what's been done to date. It shows this is the feasibility report, the full report that AI3 put together. This is a select board meeting back in 2019 when we presented the original Flansburgh study. We have the project timeline. I think I'd like to have her expand this. So this is what, this only shows what's been happening in the last couple of years with the feasibility. I think it would help the town to know what started back in 2017. And it might have to, as we said, stretch on this side. So we can update this. We thought it might be helpful to put some FAQs, like quick questions that people are getting and things that you're hearing from people. We can put some FAQ information. A lot of districts that have this, once the building construction starts, they keep the same page, and then you would have a place for construction updates, so photos of construction and things that are happening. How to contact, so that would have the building committee members and their names and information like that. So we're going to continue working on this. I'm going to send you guys the link so you can play around and see what's on there. And I thought at the next meeting you could think of if there's any other information you think that would be useful. We'll put up the Flansburgh study that was done in 2019, just so everybody can see the full history in one place.
Maybe we could all come with an FAQ.
What was that?
Maybe we could all come with an FAQ. I certainly have a lot of FAQs.
Yeah, if there's questions you're getting, I'll write that. I kind of envisioned that being just a narrative, responses to commonly asked questions. But anything else, and then what we were hoping to do is be able to have this complete and ready to launch at the end of May, so that as we're going forward, we'll just build on it. And when we get into the fall and we're talking about, options, people will be able to access the full history in one place.
Yeah, this is great.
So I think Adrian's great at this stuff. She did a really nice job. So I will share the link. You can take a look. And then again, when we come next time, maybe we can brainstorm any additional things that you think should be included. Justin, you might have ideas of things that you've seen in other towns.
I come up with a couple of FAQs.
There you go. That would be great. And then we'll have it ready. And then what we can do also is that at Town Hall, we can put up a picture with a barcode, and people can scan it while they're waiting if they want more information and get that out to public places. Sound good?
Yes, the more information, the better.
All right, perfect. Well, I'll share that link with the committee to play around. I'll have Adrian send that out to you tomorrow.
Great.
And then we're all set for the meeting on the 20th. We'll meet again. We'll look at take one last look at the potential designs before estimating, and we'll talk about the website from there. Sound good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think that's it.
I
Yeah?
think you get to adjourn.
Well, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, let's do it.